Hello everyone, my name is Antony. 4 years ago, I met a wonderful girl, Leah, when we were 20 years old. With her, I experienced the greatest love, as well as the most frenzied relationships. It is false to imagine, but I was caught cheating, and not a wife with a mistress, but on the contrary. A year earlier, my family and I moved to another country because of work. I really didn't want to leave my home, but my mother reassured me that changes are always for the best, especially since we never went far and for so long. And you may like it. We packed up and left, and a new life began. The first thing I did was go to university. I made friends. Some of them we began to communicate closely. So a circle of friends appeared, and after a while, I accidentally met a girl. She cut me off in a car, and I almost had an accident because of her. I caught up with her and honked my horn. I was in a really bad mood that day, but here I was. She asked me to take it out on her. When we stopped, I behaved like an ungentlemanly person. I started swearing and shouting, and she looked at me so easily and simply from the car, lowered the window, and then slowly gave the middle finger and drove away. I was so outraged by the impudence that I even laughed. This girl is etched into my memory. It looked spectacular, very stylish. I wished I had met her. It must have been fate for us to meet again. The next day, my friend and I went to a club, where I ran into her on the dance floor. She recognized me right away, which was understandable because she was waving her middle finger at me and smiling. I went up to her and we started dancing together, and that's how we met. I walked her home, and since then, I've walked her every day. Oh, I fell in love with her completely and irrevocably. She was my first love, and it was also mutual. We had a crazy relationship. We went out at night until morning, loved to dance, went out of town together spontaneously, drank alcohol in front of the TV, went crazy, ate a lot, made love, and when we quarreled, we did it just as beautifully and vividly. Smashing dishes, she slammed doors, locked herself in the bathroom. I twirled my finger at my temple and called her hysterical. A couple of hours later, when we were both out of breath, we kissed and everything was fine again. A year later, we moved in together and got married. As soon as we celebrated this event in a small family circle, my father said that we should return to our country. I couldn't believe it because my wife was finishing school. She couldn't just snap and leave, and I needed to get a job where I was going for many years. In general, it was decided. I left and she stayed. We agreed that we should visit each other as much as possible. I missed her like crazy. She came to see me during the holidays and birthdays. Parting was a tantamount to torture, but we managed. This long year has finally passed. She finished her studies and came to me. Well, then my job didn't work out, so we came back to her homeland and decided to live there for a while. To be honest, perhaps this distance changed us a little. We both became a little different, and it was already difficult to accept each other, not as before. Our swearing no longer resembled those that used to be. There was no longer any romance or something. Everything became tougher, rougher, and without reconciliation in the form of kisses and sex. One day, she said a lot of unnecessary things, and I couldn't stand it and hit her, which I later regretted. She did not forgive me and kicked me out of the house. I left, buying the nearest ticket. That's how we broke up, but we haven't filed for divorce yet. I went back to myself again, trying to build a new life. I was angry with her for a long time, but I didn't call her because she sent me away. So 3 months passed. I began to realize that the marriage was about to break up and went to a club where I got drunk and met another girl, Vera. I started dating her. It was very intrusive. I didn't like her, I just liked her, but that's all. And she seems to have a huge crush on me. I didn't seem to mind, but I didn't reciprocate. She came to me every day, took care of the house, brought something to eat, and I didn't care. To be honest, I missed my wife. Then one morning, the doorbell rang. I thought it was that girl again. I got dressed, opened the door, and saw Leah. I couldn't believe it. I suddenly felt sick and happy at the same time. She turned on me as before, as if there had never been a parting between us for almost a year. We enjoyed each other all day, and it wasn't until the evening that she told me that she missed me. We frankly admitted to each other that we had a relationship during this time. Yes, I was terribly jealous of her boyfriend, but I knew I had a girlfriend myself. I told her about it, to be honest. We agreed to break all ties and try to continue loving each other again. That evening, I was supposed to meet up with Faith. When I saw her sitting on a bench outside, barely approaching, I told her that everything was over between us, that I loved my wife, and we were together again. Of course, it was unpleasant and painful for her, but I couldn't lie. I went home, and the next morning, Leah and I agreed to go for a drive around the city. When I got to the car, I was just freaking out. My white car was covered in red paint. That girl drew a male sexual organ on it, wrote obscene words everywhere, and my paraphrased name, Anton. I was really angry, but Leah calmed me down by telling me that Vera just needed time to cool down. Barely as we washed the car at the sink, we returned home. Exactly the same inscriptions were written on the entrance. Yes, she was not too lazy to go around all 7 floors until she reached my door. At least I didn't give her the keys to the apartment. A day later, she made such inscriptions on the door and the car already fittings. Broke the windows, punctured the tires, broke the peephole on the front door. This girl did not calm down, and I can see that I strongly touched her to the quick. Leah asked me to meet her and talk things over. I agreed and texted her about the meeting. I left the house and waited for her in a cafe. About an hour later, my wife calls me in hysterics and cries. She couldn't really say anything, so I ran home scared and saw an ambulance at the entrance. It turns out Vera watched me leave, rang the doorbell, and when Leah came out, she sprayed something on her face. It's a good thing nothing terrible happened. Leah received a small burn from an unknown mixture, but everything was fine. Then I couldn't stand it any longer and asked the police for help. Only then did Vera calm down a little. I never thought my mistress would be more jealous than my wife. Anyway, Leah and I left there again and went back to the city where our love was born. Now we have decided to settle down a little and not break up. By the way, very soon our family will have another person.
Hello everyone, my name is Laura. Have you ever been in an awkward situation with twin brothers? I got caught once and almost died of shame. I dated one and I spent the night with another. Do you want to know how it happened? Then take a look. When I went to college, I almost immediately met a very cool guy. His name was Jerry. He was the star of the department, pumped, stylish, with money. Girls ran after him in droves. To be honest, I don't know what he liked about me, but we started dating almost as soon as we met. He was nice, but there were some moments in his character that were still annoying. For some reason, he kept asking me to get close to him, and I couldn't. I was scared, and besides, I always thought my first time should be special. I bided my time as best I could. Jerry loved me very much and promised to be patient. And then, one day, we were invited to a party at the home of our classmate in honor of the end of the first year of college. We went there, of course. Jerry looked charming, and he was particularly nice that night. We had a good time, and then he suggested that I take a walk around the house. A lot of guys were hanging out around the pool, swimming, listening to music, drinking. Jerry said he needed to talk to me. I was alert and prepared to listen, but he said we should be alone because it was important to him. We went up to one of the bedrooms on the second floor, and Jerry locked the door and came up to me and asked me to dance. You know, we've been together almost a year. I think this is a good indicator of a strong relationship. But Laura, do not forget that I am still a man and I want something more than just kisses, he said. Oh no, he's back at his record, I thought. Jerry, I told you I can't right now, and you promised to wait, I said. Then he got mad. What are you waiting for? We've been together a year and you're still breaking down? I can't wait. Now or never, Laura. What other proof of my feelings do you need? Dozens of girls dream of sleeping with me, and you are still waiting for a special occasion? He shouted. I stood there in a daze. I didn't think sex was so important to him. I was offended by his words. Didn't he understand that it was important to me? I can't just make up my mind. I need to feel ready for this. I slapped him and ran away in tears. I didn't want to talk to him or see him. I was terribly hurt by his words. But I must admit that I felt very bad and hurt without him. After all, we've been together almost a year. He often dined at our house, and I introduced him to my mother. It's been a week since the fight. We were on summer vacation, so I didn't even see him. I cried every day. I didn't want to leave because of it. Then, my friend Nellie called me and invited me to a pajama party. What, are you still in trouble for sex? She asked me. The four of us sat with the girls and each shared their problems with gossip. We were all in our pajamas, without makeup, eating ice cream and drinking wine. "Yes, I can't make up my mind to do it," I said. Suddenly, there was a wild whinny in the room. The girls laughed at me. "We understand everything. The first time is very responsible and scary. But Laura, believe me, if the first person you met suggested it, you might be offended. But now what? You've been together almost a year, right? He's an awesome-looking, rich, smart guy. These 3 arguments should be enough for your first time with him. Sex is already becoming special. He's a man, don't you understand?" the girls told me. By this time, I already felt a slight relaxation in my body. I think the wine went to my head. After an hour and another bottle, the girls gave me a makeover, dressed me up, ordered a taxi, and sent me home to Jerry. When he opened the door for me, I staggered at him. I kissed him so hard that he couldn't say a word. We kissed passionately and then went to his room. In the morning, when I woke up, my head was aching terribly. Everything ached and everywhere. Well, that's it, I thought. "Jerry, I'm sorry I broke in on you yesterday without calling. I just thought about it and decided you were right." I laughed and then asked, "Did you even like it?" And then I turned to face him and I was like, "Oh shit! No, who are you?" In front of me was a sort of Jerry and a sort of not. It looked just like him, but it wasn't him. "I'm Johnny. Nice to meet you. What's your name?" he asked with a satisfied face. Oh no, I couldn't believe I'd screwed up so bad. It looks like I had too much wine and I didn't even get a good look at his face. I got out of the bed, ran to the bathroom, bathed and dressed. My heart was pounding with anxiety. I didn't know what to do. I went out and asked who he was, why they looked so alike. It turns out that this was his twin brother, whom Jerry never told anyone about since they did not live together. Their parents divorced when the boys were still children. Each parent kept a twin. They haven't spoken to each other since. I arrived only yesterday. Jerry went to his mother's and I went to my father's. My parents finally reconciled after all these years, and my brother and I decided to switch places to be with our ancestors. I just arrived here yesterday, took a shower, and then someone rang the doorbell. Well then, you attacked me so hard that I didn't even have time to say anything, Johnny said. I sat on the edge of the bed and listened to it all. All of a sudden, I felt really bad, and I started crying. I wish I hadn't come here. Why the hell didn't he tell me about you? Johnny tried to calm me down. He started talking about my beauty and how he liked everything, but it only made me feel worse. I felt like a broken cheater. I slept with my boyfriend's brother. How can I live with myself now? Anyway, since then, I've decided that I'm done with Jerry. On some level, I was glad that he didn't call or text me again. I went home and was depressed for about a month. Johnny offered to keep this secret, and he promised not to tell anyone about us, especially his brother. Even though you broke up, he shouldn't know about it. It will be beneficial for both of us, he said, and I agreed. So now I'm living with it, and little by little, I'm trying to come to terms with it. What would you do if you were me?